Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. While the country is on lockdown, I have decided to run a series of videos in which I take a look at fun family games to play with the kids whilst we're all stuck indoors. The requirements for the games are that they have to be family games that children can understand easily, but which are also fun for adults to play, and which are relatively easy to get hold of so you can order them online and have them delivered. Finally, I am looking for games that have a certain amount of educational value in them, because obviously children are not getting the opportunity to go to school at the moment, and this is an extra way to sneak a little bit of learning into their day. That being the case, the game I have chosen to look at today is Timeline. Timeline is available in numerous editions and you can combine them all if you so wish. I only have one, and that's the British History edition. This is a few years old now. I think they have reissued the game in new packaging, but still in tins, I believe. Publishers, please stop putting your games in tins. They are really annoying to stack and store. But yeah, this is a very simple game. It's for ages 8 and up, plays for 2 to 8 players, and the box or tin says that games take about 15 minutes, and generally I think that's being a little bit generous. This is the ultimate filler game and games can end incredibly quickly. The game itself comprises a single deck of 110 cards. As the set that I have is themed around British history, each of these cards has an image depicting a moment from British history. And the game itself could not be simpler. At the start of the game, each player is dealt 4 cards, and then you place one card in the centre of the table, with the reverse side facing up, which shows you the date when that event took place. In this case, we have 1959, postcodes are first used. The game then starts with the youngest player and moves clockwise around the table, and the reason that you start with the youngest player is because there is a first player advantage here, and I would recommend that you position your players so that it goes from youngest to oldest in clockwise direction, so that the oldest players are the last to take their turns. And all you do on your turn is you look at your cards that you have available, obviously not looking at the back where the dates are specified, but at the front where the dates are not specified. You pick one card and you have to place it in the timeline. The timeline here only comprises one card, so it is a slightly easy choice of picking a card that you think happened before or after, in this case 1959. For example, if I've got in my hand Britain acquires Hong Kong, I think that happened earlier, so I would place it here. We then flip it over and we see if I am right. In this case, yes, I am right. That happened in 1842, so I've positioned the card in the correct position. That means I have one less card in my hand, and the aim of the game is to be the player with no cards left, so this is a good thing for me. If, however, I had placed the card on this side, I am wrong. That card would be discarded and I would have to draw a fresh card into my hand to replace it. And while the first move in the game may be relatively easy, as the timeline builds up, it becomes increasingly difficult, because if we have a card here and a card here, and then I have this next card, decimalisation of the British currency, I now have 3 places where I can choose to place it. Here, here, or here. So the decisions become more difficult. I think I'm going to place it here. It happened in 1971, so I am correct. The next player at the table now takes a card. They've got the publication of Animal Farm, but now they have the choice of placing it here, 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 or here. So you see, as the game progresses, it does become more difficult to know where to place these cards. And that's it, that's the whole game. It really is that simple, that straightforward. It's very, very easy to explain, very easy to play, and you can get through games incredibly quickly. The period that the cards cover go up to relatively modern stuff. We have here Britain voting for the EU in 2016, but actually goes all the way back to the midst of time, to early things like Stonehenge, to incredibly early things like Britain becoming an island. And of course, older, more learned players will have an advantage in this game, much as they would in any type of trivia game. This is why the children should start earlier in the round, so they have less options on where to place their cards and generally have a slight advantage. But even then, you will find that adults at the table will tend to have an easier time of knowing where these things should be placed in the timeline. But one thing I do like, I like the way that the cards have been designed and the way that the events have been chosen, because it is possible to glean additional information from the artwork. For example, here we have the card, the London Stock Exchange opens, and we have this image here of gentlemen in top hats. And then we have this card, the top hat is first worn. Obviously, if this card is on the table, we can deduce that this card should indeed be placed before it in the timeline. And there's numerous little hints and things like that in the artwork to help you form your decisions. But sometimes you are just going to be straight guessing, and sometimes you're just going to know the answer. There's certain things like the Great Fire of London you're just going to know if you've been to school. But overall, this is a fun little diversion. It's hardly a game, really, in all honesty. But I have played this numerous times with my daughter. She has a great time. And the cards themselves are the type of thing that can generate discussion points. They are the type of thing where you play a card down like the Good Friday Agreement, and that's going to open a potential discussion with your children. Something for them to explore. Maybe send them away to Google to look up a little bit more about these things, learn a little bit more about the actual history behind that image. And it's never a bad thing to spark that desire to find out a little bit more. But that's all I've got to say about this one. Thank you so much for listening. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you have really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.